Good evening, YouTube. How you doing this evening? This is a 1949 Chevrolet Fleetmaster Deluxe. It was purchased back in 2015 for $1,500. It was a complete car. It had motor, front suspension, drivetrain, steering wheel, all the dash, everything. Had everything for $1,500. Completely disassembled. So he had sandblasted it and primered it, this green primer, and it was used as a project vehicle for my son at the Hot Rod Institute in South Dakota. The idea behind the vehicle was always to be a gasser, a drag racing style car, and it was supposed to be for my wife because at the time I was running her front engine dragster, and she couldn't drive that, but she wanted to drive something, so we decided we'd build a gasser for her. This was back in 2015. The first video that you saw was of moving this vehicle from our old house to the new house, and that was 4.5 years ago, and this has been sitting in storage since then. And the time has not been kind to it. We're going to have to do some stuff over again. We have some rust issues, not serious rust issues, but we have surface rust that we got to take care of. Let's take a look at what we have. So one of the objects of building the car for my wife was to have it be reliable, not have to do a lot of maintenance to it. So what we have here is basically a stock 454. It came out of an RV, and I believe it's a Gen 4. It had a throttle body on it, and we removed the throttle body and put an intake on it with a good carburetor. And we removed the remote oil filter and put the normal screw-in filter to the engine in. What we have here is a custom-built aluminum oversized radiator, because what I want to do is keep this motor cold. The whole idea is reliability. And to be able to run this motor, what they call hot lap, if that's what happens. So this radiator is oversized for the motor, and the electric fan is oversized for the motor also. I hate electric fans. Personally, I hate electric fans. They make a terrible noise. But in the theory of drag racing, I don't want this fan taking horsepower away from the motor. So we use electricity and use a battery. And during rounds we charge the battery, there'll be no alternator. This is one of the first modifications that we'll see that was made out at the Hot Rod Institute. We have a straight axle underneath here now with disc brakes and leaf springs. The wheels on the vehicle are personally my favorites. I love these wheels on the old cars. We have new floor plans installed. My son did that work. We had to modify the existing floor plan to house the Turbo 400. This is just a mock-up. The Turbo 400 that will go in here has been modified to have a reverse valve body in it and to have a pro brake in it. And we go to put the transmission in, and I'll explain what those are. I was lucky to get all the instruments and the radio and all the dash stuff with this car. So if I decide to put it back in it, I do have it. I don't know if I'm going to go complete race car or if I'll put the dash back together. Here we are at the rear of the vehicle. And one of the most prominent features of the rear vehicle is, of course, the tire and the wheel well opening. The original opening in the rear here was much smaller. It would never have fit this tire. A feature of gassers is what they generally did is they cut these wheel well openings in a semicircle, just big enough to have the tire fit. But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to have the wheel well mimic the original wheel well, just be larger. And that entailed cutting quite a bit of metal out, going into the door and creating a new jamb here. Because this jamb was moved forward, This wheel well no longer fit, and the door no longer fit. We've installed a new patch panel here, which is really the only serious rust on the whole car, and have reworked the door here so that it mimics what the original door looked like. And we've ended up with some really nice jambs. This is again all my son's fabrication. So that will clean up and be nice. Let's take a look in the trunk here. All the fabrication work that we're going to look at now has been done by my son. We'll have a better view of this when we take the body off, and that is a future project. But what we can see here prominently is the new cross member that's been installed and the coil-over shocks. We have a fully fabricated strange rear end. This will knock us out of some of the Gasser classes because they don't allow the fabricated rear end, but I wanted it for reliability. We have a fully adjustable 4-bar link system in the rear with a diagonal link from one side to the other that runs back to the axle. I believe that brings us to the end of this video. There are lots of projects that we're going to do here, so there'll be more.